All right, good morning. I am Sergeant John Bedell, and today I'm going to talk to you about riot control formation, specifically with shields. We're going to go over platoon online, platoon wedge, platoon column, and platoon echelon, and we're going to understand the purposes for this. So ultimately, the reason we practice these formations is in order to better control demonstrators at a riot. All right, a couple of safety considerations before we start this training. We are going to be using large, I believe they're polycarbonate shields. They're not too heavy, but if you were to take one to the face or kind of towards the limbs, it could kind of hurt you. So please don't screw around with the shields too much. We're going to have plenty of fun. Don't worry about that. Secondly, we are outdoors. In the event of a lightning, please go seek shelter. We'll rally all by that field over there. I think as far as safety considerations goes, we also have Doc on board. He'll take care of anybody who gets hurt. So nice and easy, nothing too crazy. Just take all instructions from the tower and everybody will be just fine. All right, and as mentioned earlier, we're learning how to do this in order to better control demonstrators at a potential riot. So these are all pretty simple and we'll get right into it. First thing we're going to do is you all have your shields, and I've got team leaders standing behind folks who are carrying shields. We got to learn how to pick these things up, right? So in an ideal world, I wouldn't be using a Coors Light container as a shield. I'd have an actual one, but this is not ideal. So you're going to pick it up. You're going to notice that there's a loop behind it. You're going to slide your arm through the loop, grab hold of that handle, and with your other hand, keep it at a 45-degree angle to brace for any sort of projectiles that would come your way. All right, so with that out of the way, we're going to learn about platoon online. It's just what it sounds like. We're going to get a line of service members with our biggest man in the middle, and then people in descending order height out to the sides. Now it's important that you both stay on a line and that there's no gap in between your left man and your right man. You're actually going to kind of snake the shield from left to right underneath your next guy's shield, so that if any projectiles were to come in, you'd be good to go. All right, so that way you can all move as a unit. Now when it comes to moving, one, I'm going to give a preparatory command and then a command of execution, and two, when you are moving, you are going to do so at a combat glide. You don't have to stomp your feet and drag them. It's exhausting. It's a great way to blow out your boots. Yeah, it's just not a particularly efficient way of getting from point A to point B. So, because riots can be kind of chaotic, I want to call out, I want to hear you repeat what I say. I'll then give the command of execution, which you'll repeat, and we're going to move to a specific landmark. Don't stop until you hear me give the order to halt. Riots are kind of evolving scenarios, and maybe by the time we reach that telephone pole, things have changed, and I want to keep advancing, all right? So we've got platoon online. Prepare to move to that telephone pole at the intersection. Move. Moving, we're moving. We get to the intersection and that telephone pole. Platoon halt. Really simple, guys. Nothing too complicated. Now the next formation I want to work with you on is platoon wedge. Now this is ultimately done to sort of break apart demonstrators, open up a hole, and it's pretty simple, but this is going to require a little bit more action on the part of team leaders. So ultimately what's going to happen is we're going to have our big dude in the middle step off first. Everybody else won't move, except for the big dude in the middle, pivot man, and his team leader. After that first step, next two to his left and right will also advance. And so now those shieldsmen are parallel to the team leader of the pivot man. So you're kind of forming a wedge. As you move down the ranks, each subsequent shield man and team leader will do the same, so that they're always one step off each other, forming a big wedge. They're going to do that same kind of idea and scheme of movement with regards to platoon online. We're going to call out, to the burned out dump truck. Platoon advance to the burned out dump truck, you move up there, and then when I want you to get back online, I'm going to yell out cordon. You'll repeat cordon, everybody will push up to the line, all right? So, platoon wedge formation, move to the burned out dump truck, move. Everyone moves up, all right? As we're approaching that, I think we can get back on a line. Cordon. All right, cool. We've moved up to a cordon. We're back to platoon online. Really, really simple, guys. And also, don't forget during this process, keep that good shield hold. Keep that arm at a 45-degree angle, especially if you're trying to part ways in a crowd. Serves the reason that you're probably going to have a certain degree of contact with people who might not want to have contact with you. All right, so now we're all back on the line. The next two, it's kind of one, but two movements I want to talk about are echelon left and echelon right. This is a way of driving a crowd towards one side of the street or the other. Excuse me. Unlike the wedge formation, the echelon formation will start with a man either all the way on the left or all the way on the right. Other than that, though, it's kind of similar. He's going to step off, and then you're going to have the next man step off one pace after him, and one pace after him, and one pace after him. It should look like a big diagonal, when all is said and done. So if I said platoon echelon left man's going to be the first one to step off. Platoon echelon right man's going to be the first one to step off. Pretty simple, right? Okay. So we got everybody on the line. Don't forget that good 45-degree angle, palm open on the shield. Keep that shield up nice and high. Don't rest it on your knees because you can get a projectile directly to the legs, and that's not going to be any fun. So, platoon echelon right to the telephone pole. Move. Y'all then repeat it. You're going to advance to that telephone pole. As we get there, I'm thinking things are looking pretty good now. Cordon. Bring it up. Platoon echelon, I believe I said right before, we'll go platoon echelon left to the schoolhouse. Move. Same scheme of movement, except on the left this time. You get up there, boom. Cordon, halt. There we go. Everybody stopped. We're happy. Last quick formation I want to go over is the platoon column. Now, as you've all seen, platoon online, pretty capable of keeping an entire street clear, but you're not moving very quickly, right? Because you're keeping pace with the guy left to you and to the right, and you get your shields interlocked. Great for keeping those streets clear, not great for moving quickly. So, we have our column. There's a couple ways to do this. Personally, I kind of like to keep that pivot man up front on the second side to the right, so that when we get back on a line, they all form off him. And that's how we'll do it for this demonstration. So we're going to have two shieldmen up front, and then behind him will be his team leaders. And then two more shieldmen, and so on and so forth, all the way through the column. And so you have this platoon column. We're going to move to a destination, just like we've been doing for every other iteration we have. And then you are going to get on the line upon my order, or a wedge, or a platoon echelon, depending on what the leadership wants to do. All right, so platoon, column formation, move. All right, everybody gets into the nice column. Platoon move to the blue high school. There we go. All right, we're going to move. Get to the high school. At that point, I'm going to say, that's called platoon line formation. Platoon on line. Move. All right, we all get out, form that line. Awesome, now we're ready to kick some ass. So, I hope I have given you a very rough understanding of what the different riot control formations are. Obviously, this medium isn't great. I'm talking to a phone in a hotel room instead of giving a demonstration in person. But I'd like to think that we have all of the considerations we could possibly get in this not so awesome medium. Just to go over so that we all have a good understanding as to what's going on. We got platoon online, that's kind of your most basic. We got platoon wedge, in order to sort of drive a hole in a crowd. We got the platoon echelon, right and left, in order to drive crowds in that subsequent direction. And for the purposes of movement, we also have the platoon column. Get it done nice and quickly. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. At the end of this, if this were an actual demonstration, I'd be handing out sheets with every one of these formations written down, demonstrating how they actually work, so that if you ever want to sit down and we're like, hey man, how exactly does that work again? We can have these nice charts. It'll be great. Like I said, if anybody has any questions for me, please let me know. But seeing as I'm talking to an empty room, with a weirdo, I don't think that's going to be a case. So, thank you for taking the time to watch me stare off in the snow for the past 15 minutes. And yeah, this concludes my very brief and overview of different riot control formations. Have an excellent weekend.